All right, so you need, how many members do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You need to have 7. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 6, so you need one more person.
All right. I don't know. I don't think we're going to need take a vote today. I doubt. So
Yeah, but in order for it to be a meeting,
all
you
right.
have to have a quorum.
All right.
Is Carol Trockey coming? I thought she was, I think she's coming. So that would give us our 7th, right?
It would if she shows.
All right, let me see.
Paul evidently wrote it down for tomorrow at 4, so I'm looking to see if he's able to sign on.
Carol Trockey. You
Does
want me to
anyone
call
have her phone
Carol?
number? Yeah, if you've got her phone number, that might be good.
I do.
I just texted her, but a call would be good.
Okay, so Paul is working, but in another 15 or 20 minutes, he'll be able to sign on.
And the Steers, I think their phone number is 2081.
I think they're planning to be here because Mike asked me about things earlier
Okay.
today.
I don't have my phone right here.
I'm calling Mike and
Thanks.
Heather. There's Carol Trockey signing in. So-
There's Carol.
Awesome.
It's Carol.
All
Hi,
right.
Heather. Carol Wardell here. Hi. Are you planning on signing in for the Wilbour Woods meeting? Oh, okay. Okay.
Carol Trockey, that was me who just called you, so you can disregard. Carol.
I'm sorry, I was having a problem with my speaker not being turned on.
I just dialed your telephone number.
Oh, I saw
Oh,
that.
don't worry about it.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm late.
No problem. We're just getting going. So Carol, we have a quorum, right?
Yes.
She's on the phone with the
Okay.
Steers.
1, 2,
Yes, we
3,
do.
4, 5, 6.
Oh.
Yeah, and
Sorry about that confusion. Heather Steers is about to sign in.
Okay.
She
Okay,
was
perfect.
also confused. She thought it was tomorrow.
Yeah, we usually do it Tuesday, don't we? Yep.
Yeah, you do normally, so that's probably where the confusion came in.
My battery is on 5%. I don't think my charger's charging. If I lose you, I'm gonna go to my telephone and I'll call back in to the
Okay.
meeting. You just will see a blank screen, but I'll be able to participate by phone.
Okay. Okay. Since it may take her a minute or two, do you want me to do the roll call now and we'll
Yes,
just
please. Why don't
sign
you-
in?
That would be great. Thanks, Carol.
Okay. All right. So for the record, this is March 8th, 2021. It is 4:06 p.m. It is the Wilbour Woods Stakeholders Committee meeting. For members, we have Rob Mara, Sue Terrio, Brett McKenzie, Heather Steers, Sheila McIntosh, John Gwynn, Carol Trockey, and Antonio Texera. Also in attendance, Donald Madera, civil engineer.
There you are.
There you go, John.
Thank you very much. Perfect. Has everybody had a chance to look over Sue's brilliant minutes? Brilliant as usual. I think she always says, like a Navajo rug, there's always one tiny imperfection for us to find.
That's to let the devil out.
So Tony is a town administrator, not a town manager. And I think Paul Golembeski, I think I put an E at the end of his name at some point.
It should be an E.
Oh, it should be an E and not an I. Okay, gotcha.
Exactly.
Thank you. There might be others, though. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I guess that's it. So would anybody like to move to approve the minutes?
Sheila, so moved.
Sheila?
I'll second.
Okay, good. Thank you. That sounds Rob. Okay, good. Can we have a vote to approve the minutes?
Oh,
Anonymous, thank you.
no, I'm showing a show of hands. The only one I didn't see a hand on was Heather Steers.
I'm going to abstain because I didn't read them.
Okay, all right.
All right, good.
All right, so let the record show that the, except for Heather Steers, who's abstaining.
Fantastic. The first item of the agenda, of the new agenda, is to meet Don Medeiros, who is a very capable engineer that many of us know. He's on the Beach Commission, been very involved in town landing. He's been involved in many projects, lived in town, and we could go on and on. Don, is there anything else I should mention?
No, I don't think so. I think you summed it up pretty well. Thanks.
All right. Don, of course, has read our RFP, which called for repair of 2 bridges and restoration of the side of the road, which I think may be the most complicated part. And he's also read how our committee's intention is to have the whole Wilbour Woods be used again, but also have the feeling of the old Wilbour Woods that we remember from our childhood 15 years ago. Okay, no one believed that one. All right, a little longer than that. Okay. All right. Anyway, I thought we'd start by just sort of kind of introducing. We told Donnie we weren't going to put him on the spot too much today, but basically we just wanted to start the conversation about what our expectations are. What would be what's a home run? I don't know. With that, maybe we should start with sort of biology. Carolyn, do you want to sort of what your vision, if we do a good job, might be?
You're still on mute. There you go.
Wow, Johnny, way to put me on the spot here. Let's see.
Okay.
What would my vision be? I think it would be able to get us back to the described outcomes with bridges and road access without damaging outside of the roadbed, without altering hydrology. And I think mostly my concern is bringing in materials storage, really changing the invasive species balance in there, things like multiflora rose. I mean, we've been seeing that as an increasing problem. So I think really trying to be sensitive to staying in the roadbed itself and not having an adverse impact on this wetlands surrounding it would be ideal.
I think that makes sense to me.
Carol, can I ask you a question? You were concerned about invasives. You're saying if say loam is brought in, for example, to dress up the side of the road, that's what you bringing in materials. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And also just disturbance. A lot of disturbance to the forest and stuff is likely to have, bare soil is the devil's workshop, and just problems occur.
I think given the limited use in there in the roadbed itself, I mean, without knowing the specifics, but I would imagine if we're creative, we can, figure out a way to stage and plan that kind of keeps us in the footprint that's already disturbed. But I don't know, that would be something I would be very interested in, sort of having an engineer or contractor be able to work with us on to try to have that as a primary operating principle.
Carol, you've seen that when we've had unusually strong springs or winter storm, you've seen water over the bridges, right?
I've seen water right up to the bridges and over the road and other places, yes.
So that's something we should take in mind, that with more harsh storms.
Yeah, I think I think the exercise, Don, in your proposal and anybody I'm sure would be in the same position of doing the hydraulic modeling on the stream itself. I would be really interested. I'm just interested, fascinated to see how that works out, what comes of that, and if we're able to sort of plan in some of the more flashy flooding that we've seen and that we anticipate will be happening with greater frequency perhaps going forward into the design. Because
Yep.
it definitely, you know, it's not the typical flow that's a problem, but when we get you know, 2 or 3 storms in a row and a bunch of rain, it's kind of amazing how much it changes in there.
Yeah, for sure. There's a pretty good sized watershed. It's about 1,200 acres,
Yeah.
you know, so there's a lot of watershed. So when you get the storms, you can see pretty good flows come through there.
It
And the-
wouldn't be part of our job, but would it, I mean, would you know, dams upstream or, you know, or ways of holding water back way upstream be something for 10 years down the road to think about, or would that just screw up more nature?
I think I like Carol's idea about staying in to the extent we can, staying in the existing disturbed, if you will,
Yeah.
footprint. To go upstream, up along that brook, it's all wetlands and I mean, you've got a stream channel with a broad, shallow bank wetland. So, you know, we'd have to be creating like beaver dams, maybe 200-300 feet long to try to have any kind of effect.
Sheila knows how to get beavers.
Yeah, I do actually. I know how to get rid of them too. The culvert under the road to the right as you come in seems too small, and that's perhaps why the overflow right there. Maybe that needs to be a little bigger.
I think, Sheila, you're right, from a practical standpoint, you've got basically both bridges. You've got 9 feet of clearance between the 2 stone abutments. However, right upstream of that, of both bridges, you've got basically almost a 16-foot wide channel. So in both places, your wide channel is neck down to go through a 9-foot wide space between the bridge abutments, 4 feet vertical. So that's not a lot of 9x4. That's not a lot of hydraulic waterway to be able to convey the flood flows that we're expecting. So it's no surprise that the water finds other places to go over the road in places, to probably flood adjacent areas adjacent to the stream, and then, you know, dissipate over time. But yeah, I think it's clear to me, just looking at it before doing calculations, we're going to have to be widening both of those bridges along the stream. So the 9-foot stream that goes between the abutments, I think that's going to have to be widened somewhat to be more in uniformity with the approximate 16-foot wide channel. So we can't elevate, we can't change the stream bed, and we can't elevate the road surface to any appreciable, meaningful degree. So we're still going to have a 4-foot high opening, more or less. But if we can get the width from 9 feet up to 15 or 16, that's going to help. And I think we need to do that at both bridges. And both are pretty similar, not only in construction, but in those dimensions. And so the other thing I think we want to look at is kind of along the lines of what Carol was observing is, are there places where the road's lower than the bridges? Are there places where we can encourage excess stormwater to bypass a bridge and get back into the stream channel below the bridge non-erosively, but that would be for high flood flow, which would then protect the bridge, because we really don't want those bridges to be as constricting as they are in their present condition.
So Don,
Yeah.
I was talking about just below the dam. there's a culvert under the road where the road bank has been eroded.
Which dam now is it where the
The
stepping?
little stone dam where the little waterfall.
Okay, okay.
So there's a culvert that comes in below that little waterfall.
From Swamp
Where-
Road, stream coming from the
Yes,
direction.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
So
you're concerned that that's causing some negative effect on the overall question of high flood flows versus,
I've seen it over the road there.
okay. I'm not sure that's, I mean, that's something we'll calculate into the analysis, Sheila. But if that's backing up because the water in the stream channel itself, Dunderry Brook, is backing up and preventing that culvert from passing water under the road. That's why it flows over. So the
Or
idea, oh, go ahead.
could it be that the volume of water is so large that it can't get through that pipe to the stream and therefore overflows?
Well, so the way a culvert works, it's all about what they call the backwater. That's the water downstream. And this is largely typical of any control structure. But with a culvert, like let's use that one for example, there's two barrels to it, the two corrugated metal pipes that you're talking about, and the little stream.
Mhm.
Okay. So when the water in the brook is low, the outlet of that double barrel culvert may actually be above the surface of the water in the brook.
Yes,
That's called the free outfall. There is almost no resistance to flow, and that culvert in that condition might handle, I'll just say 50 cubic feet per second, just to give it a number here for illustration. Now, when Dunderry Brook is up higher and
Got
that
it.
culvert, say, half submerged, it might only be able to pass 20 CFS, and that other 30's got to go somewhere. It's going to build up, and it's either going to build up to a point where it forces the water through the culvert because of the head pressure, or it's not going to reach a high enough head pressure to force it, so it's going to be high enough, it's going to flow over the road.
so the diameter of that pipe makes no difference.
Not to in my mind, not to the question of passing the flood flow under the bridge down below.
Okay,
If anything, it might help, because if it backs up the flow a little bit, it might help offset the peaks to help the water in the stream go quicker before adding more so quickly. You know, it's a
I got
kind of
it.
thing. So sometimes a restrictive culvert is a really good thing in that case,
Okay.
because it slows the flow from that sub watershed. It offsets the timing of the peaks.
Mhm.
Thank you.
No, and I have a question. Could you describe the process that you will take to come up with a plan? What are the major steps that you will take? I think we
We
lost
lost
Don.
him.
I think we just lost him.
he'll find us. Oh yeah, he said he's going to telephone in. I can partly answer that, Rob, by our
Agreed.
RFP calls for phasing. We're in the concept, we're just launching. the
Oh, I'm
concept.
not concerned about the phasing. I'm concerned about, does he start off with measurements? Does he start off with looking
okay.
at, what are the steps in his process?
Okay. Well, I don't know. In the meantime, I'll just fill
Maybe
in
you heard the
with-
question and decided to.
Yeah, maybe he bailed on us already. No, I think he's going to be pretty good.
He was excellent on the town landing. We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
nothing but praise for the work that he did.
Exactly. So anyway, I just for everybody on the committee, well, until Don joins us, we have a phased contract with him. Actually, we don't. The town of Little Compton does, and we're in the first phase. We're just launching the first phase, which is concept design. And then at the end of that, he will come back to us. We will hem and haw. We don't like this. Do like that. What about this? So we'll have an opportunity to refine the basic concept and see if we're all barking up the right tree. And then he goes into design development, which is taking it in more detail. And then he, as part of that, he would be going to the state DEM to get their blessing. He has told me that we could make it part of this process maybe easier than others. He should say this, not me, but because if we're doing repair and rehab of existing bridges, apparently there's a loophole that makes the process easier than doing something that's new. So we might be able to that may not be as onerous a process as possible. The state, oh, here comes Don, perfect.
Sorry about that. I'm back. I heard you start there, John.
I was filling in the gaps a little bit about the process. Rob asked, "What's the process of
developing the plan?"
Yeah,
What steps do you take, Don? Do you start off with looking at the map, doing a survey, taking elevations? What?
Yep. So we'll start on two fronts. Basically, the first step in this is determining, and the important step is determining the flood flow, the cubic feet per second that we're expecting to go through, because then we can model it, and we can then that'll inform us as to proper bridge sizing, clear opening dimensions and whatnot. So we'll do the watershed analysis. We'll do the existing conditions survey. And draft up the existing conditions base map, and then we'll be ready to start designing and populating the plan with information.
Okay. And does that require you to look at the adjoining properties to see what they may have done to increase or decrease water flow?
No, that's not in the purview of a watershed analysis. Basically, you do it based on existing conditions. So we'll look at obviously over time, the watersheds change. They all do. They become more impervious and whatnot. No, we won't be trying to identify areas unless there's something really obvious. Of course, we'd see it and point it out, but we're not going to be looking at properties on a parcel basis and trying to determine if somebody's doing something they shouldn't be. Now, but for example, suppose we notice that the drainage from Swamp Road, of course, I don't think it does, but it could. We could be getting drainage from Swamp Road coming down that channel Sheila's talking about, and maybe that's something we can say, hey, you know what, if we took that out of the equation, that might be enough to make a difference. My suspicion is it probably wouldn't, but that's something we can look at. So I would look at something like that, but I won't be looking at anything in more detail than that. It's basically taking the watershed, determine the area of the watershed, the amount of impervious, the amount of open space, the amount of, improved open space, lawns, parks, gardens, totally natural, wild open space, because they all have different curve number runoff potential values that are assigned, and then you multiply the potential versus the area of pavement, the sub-watershed catchment areas, and that all together with time of concentration and channel geometry helps us figure out an actual flow that we would expect for a certain design storm.
Okay, good. Thank you.
That's good. I want to talk in a little while about aesthetics, but does anybody on the committee have any questions about what Donnie's, any other questions about the engineering part of this?
Brett has his hand up.
Yeah, Brett does have his hand up.
This is Brett McKenzie. Don, thanks so much for your report. I really appreciate it. And this is something that maybe Carol or others on the committee will weigh in on. But there is the pond that's a little bit north and west of the bridges, and is does that pond have any purpose for water retention in the storm conditions, or is it just because it seems to be have filled in a lot over the last few years?
Yeah, this is Don. That's a very good question. I looked at that question back in 1999 when we did a wetland permit for the Grange, because they actually repaired the wall of that little dam, that the low stone wall that actually makes the pond. And at the time, I basically came to the conclusion quickly, once I started looking at the watershed calculations, that pond might as well consider it as it doesn't exist. It does not have any storage potential for a flood storage potential. It's so small. Every molecule of flood water that flows in flows out the other end without attenuation. Now, the only thing that could be done with that, if needed, is it could be used as somewhat of an energy dissipator if needed, but I'm not sure that that's really even needed there.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I just had one other minor question. Don, I saw in your proposal, one of the ways you suggested some cost savings were by using the contour mapping that's available from the LiDAR interpolation from RIGIS. And I was just wondering if you had used that before with DEM, if that was acceptable to them to use that resource instead of having to do a survey, of the area more broadly.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Carol. So what I tried to incorporate into the language of the scope of work of my methodology on how to go about achieving that. What I thought was we will do precise ground survey work within the actual construction area of both bridges. And we would use the LiDAR 2-foot contours to basically supplement the hydraulic analysis, watershed analysis. So I would be shocked if DEM had an issue, and I certainly would be discussing that with them as a professional land surveyor, and hopefully, getting them to agree that the level of detail on both the ground survey and then the addition of the RIGIS downloaded 2-foot contours is totally appropriate. Because there's good topography there, it's going to be good topographic change. It's going to be very easy to relate the ground survey to the same datum as the 2-foot contours.
Yeah, no, it's a great resource. I just wasn't sure if they were there, if you'd had any experience, working with them in that way before, if they accepted it.
Yeah, I really, like I said, I believe, and we'll be presenting that methodology with the permit, explaining what the plans represent and what they don't represent, or to avoid misinterpretation. But I really would kind of be dumbfounded if they came back and said that we were doing something that wasn't accurate enough for the task at hand.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good. Don, you mentioned to me that if we're doing repair to existing structure, it might be an easier process to go to DEM. Do you think that, well, it may be too early to tell because we may be doing culvert adjustments and things.
Well, so if this was CRMC, which we're on the wrong side of Swamp Road, or we're on the right side of Swamp Road, however you want to look at it, but CRMC is easy. They have a separate maintenance permit, the lowest level permit, which you can do, which is basically to repair what's existing. And with a repair, there usually an agency isn't like unbelievably ridiculous, you know what I mean, to say, well, that little iota is really not repair, it's new. But DEM doesn't have that clear-cut category, but what we would do is we'd file it as a PD. Carol, you can weigh in, please. But I believe the PD is the lowest preliminary determination with freshwater wetlands is the lowest level permit we can file. The narrative we would present would be this is just maintenance. We're repairing structures that are in disrepair due to erosion and scour. We want to repair the section of the stream channel down below the waterfall, again, for the same reasons. We want to repair the road because for the same reasons. I don't think we would get pushback on that, given it's a public project, and it's an overall good thing. I mean, we know it's a Dunderry Brook is a trout water, so it's very highly protected, and we respect that, and we'll continue to do so. But I don't think I'm not seeing anything here that tells us we're going to bump this up to an application to alter, which would be a higher review category. However, like John said, I think we're going to have to, flesh that out as we go along, because depending on if we want to try to propose anything for emergency flood routing around these bridges for excess floodwaters, that might, whatever we propose to do, might influence whether it can stay as a PD or if it's going to have to go up to an application to alter. What do you think, Carol?
I tend to agree with you, Don, but I really don't have all that much experience with permitting this sort of thing. I don't really have to work with DEM for permits very often. So everything you're saying makes sense for their process, but I haven't been through it for something similar. I imagine you probably have.
Well, so in '99, when we did the work for the dam, part of that work was we got a wetland permit for the Grange to be able to repair the dam. I think with Jason Oliveira do the work on that, it seems to me, or somebody like that. It was at that time very. It's like they wanted to approve it. Like there was no pushback or anything like that. It was a community based preservation and improvement project, and naturally you would expect reviewing agencies to look at those a little bit differently than a developer who's looking to make changes and make money.
That's good. That's very good.
I would agree with everything Don just said and very much expect the same. And I know, John, we had talked about, sometimes going to DEM sooner rather than later, just to sort of let them know that this is a project in the works is probably helpful. It's a hard project not to say yes to, given it's owned by the town and it's used by so many people.
Yeah, exactly. Are there any other questions about engineering and so on? I think we're in very good hands, it's my feeling, but what about things like aesthetics when we're done? I know, Heather, you had some very strong feelings about that, and the Garden Club has been in there for a long time, keeping an eye on Wilbour Woods. What are your expectations if we do a good job at the end? What's your dream?
You're still on mute, Heather. Sometimes if you just push your space bar.
You're still on mute.
Yeah, I think she's looking to figure out where the unmute is.
Lower left.
I don't know if she's on her computer or if she's on a tablet or a phone.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on a laptop, but I'm not sure.
If it's a laptop, it should be on the bottom left.
Yeah.
I think I got it.
Oh, there we go.
There you are.
Good, Heather.
Perfect.
I'm on an iPad and it's on the upper right. So anyway, hi.
Mhm.
Uh-oh.
So I would like to see it left as natural as possible and undisturbed. And it sounds like it's going to get quite disturbed. So I don't know what to say. Construction has a way of changing things and I don't know. It's kind of scary to me.
So Don, we have high expectations. Treading down, figuring out how to do this very delicately. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I came late to the party. I had tomorrow for the
joining us,
meeting, not
Paul.
today. But Don, did you discuss what the bridge materials would be yet, or you haven't got there yet?
Oh,
No, I think we were just getting there, it sounded like to me. What I think, my recommendation is already formed in my mind, or at least my first recommendation for consideration. And that is that we use precast concrete. The reason for that is because it's inexpensive, it's easy to control. You're not doing a lot of work on site, so it's kind of like, in my mind, it's a little better of a control than trying to be building forms and doing things on site, and so it's less disturbance. What I would recommend is considering at least one or two add-ons to the reinforced concrete, and one would be and what I'm looking for myself, and I think the committee probably is too, is I want to see a stone finish there, kind of like the stone bridge abutments that are there now. I don't want to see concrete or anything that looks new or construction-like or sanitized. I want to see Little Compton. I want to see natural stone. So there's at least two options I can think of. One is we can use a form liner in the form on the outside of the inside of the form. You put in a liner, and that liner is contoured to whatever you choose. Be it when the forms are stripped at the end, you've got now a brick facade, you've got a stone facade, there's different options there. So what I would do is make those available to the committee to look at and see if there are some options in there that would be likable. There's also with that is the ability to put color in the concrete. So I think to me a home run is a natural field stone finish with a gray stone hue to it. And the other option would be, if not the form liner, and that would be trying to do something like precasting a shelf onto the outside of the concrete. So we'd have a shelf where we could then get a mason on site to put up stone and point it up. I think that's less of a I think that's more of a concern with long-term maintenance.
Yeah.
Than having the outside of the concrete stamped and colored. But that certainly is an option that may be preferable.
Donnie, I wonder if it'd be possible to put a big piece of pressure treated timber on either side of the concrete. So from the side, you don't even see the concrete, but you just see, it looks like a wood bridge from the side. Just basically a veneer, no structure. But I don't know, I'm not married to that, but I'm just thinking about, what would make it look like a rustic bridge.
John, I like that idea a lot, because I feel like the current bridge, yes, the abutments are stone, but there is, what you really see is wood, and it kind of looks like the old railroad ties. So, and maybe that's cheaper and easier than a stonemason. The thing I worry about with the pressed concrete is, does the color fade over time, and does it look fake? Like, does it kind of look like you're at Disney World with like the fake boulders? Or is it?
I hope not. Those are great, Sue. Those are great questions. What I'm going to do is have the casting yard send us down some samples. I'll ask them for color and for finish. Because the brochures from the people that sell the form liners, of course, they give you an idea, but it's not really, it's hard for myself seeing a picture and, finding out when it arrives that it's not quite what I expected. But I can make all of that stuff available for the committee to consider and look at.
I think it would be great if they could put color in the concrete. It probably will fade, but I think it'll get dirty as well. So while it starts to fade, it'll get dirtier. So maybe we'll start out with a darkish brown. I think that would be great. I don't know how strong it can be, but do you think you could put a veneer timber on either side of the bridge? Do you think, or something like that? So from the side it would looks like a real wood, or do you think that's?
Oh, yeah, we definitely could. Yeah, I definitely could do that.
Something like that. I think some of us would be happy with that because it's the real thing.
We talked about it. The edges are going to need some kind of bumper, so you can't just drive off the edge anyway. So we were thinking of timbers maybe along the edges, and maybe that timber assembly can hang right over the side and cover the side so it looks like a wooden structure. Just an idea.
Yep.
That's the great idea.
Yeah.
That way the wood would have a function as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we can do is when we settle on a final design, we can have the factory cast bolts in at the proper size, location, dimension for attaching the timbers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be good. Hey, John, well, actually, this is for a committee too. If there's a hard time if we have too much water backing up to get through a narrower bridge, how much problem do we have lifting the bridge up, say 8 inches, 12 inches, 10 inches higher? Is that gonna, do you think we're gonna hate that when it's done, or do you think
You'd have to raise the banks.
We'd have to raise the road. We'd have to definitely raise the road, and maybe we can't. It would basically be a sloped. The roadbed would have to slope up and slope down. But
the South Bridge is already kind of that way now.
Yeah, it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't. Maybe it'll be too much erosion from there. Maybe it'll just all wash off into the stream. So anyway, but I'm just trying to think of giving Donnie any more, things to play with if he needs to, things up his sleeve to work with.
So one of the questions I had, if you look at the difference that I saw between the South Bridge and the North Bridge, is the South Bridge, in addition to the South Bridge, the approach is being raised of the road on either side.
Yep.
The South Bridge appears between the two wooden bumpers, curbs on top. You've got about 11 feet. The whole bridge deck itself is approximately 12 feet, give or take. But the North Bridge, even though there's a narrow bridge that Tommy built over it, when I look at the North Bridge, I'm seeing that abutment was almost built for a 16-foot wide gravel road, 16-foot wide lane bridge. It seems to me the bridge was built a lot wider
It could have been.
than the south one. I could be wrong, but I kind of made that observation. So that leads to my question: is what are we looking for? Do we have a minimum traveled way width we want to see going over the bridge? Do we want to have the fire chief weigh in? Has he? Because I imagine fire trucks would want to be able to get through there. I think the maintenance vehicles would be smaller than a fire truck.
I would think the biggest piece of equipment might be if we had to get, and maybe we'll never dredge out the pond, but I would think that would be the biggest piece of equipment, heaviest. But
heaviest isn't so much a concern, John, because everything that would go in there is going to be fine in terms of weight. I'm just thinking the width. So to say it differently, the north abutment, if we rebuilt it just the way it was, we basically would have a 16-foot wide bridge, or the ability to have a 16-foot wide bridge. Are we happy with the 12-foot or the 11-foot clear width on the south bridge? Or do we want to try to find a happy medium? That's something that would be, we don't have to know now, but that's something we should be thinking about.
Don?
Yes, Sheila.
It seems to me that a fire truck would have a hard time taking a right or left turn in wet weather and getting across anything. And I think Petrin is really the one who needs to weigh in. They had pretty
Yeah.
strong feelings about not being able to get anything in there the way things are now. So that sounds crazy to have a fire truck go in there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if there's a fire in there, what are we going to do? Wait till it burns out the swamp road?
I think they have specific vehicles that they use for fires.
Okay.
Uh,
Would the committee like me to talk to the chief on that, or does somebody from the committee want to do that and report back?
Maybe he should come to our next meeting and talk to all of us.
This is Brett.
I can talk to the fire chief. I can ask him what his concerns are.
And also Jason.
Yes, that's what I was going to say,
Jason
Jason.
Burford.
Jason would be an important one too, because he knows what the maintenance requirements are.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, if you're willing to talk to Chief Petrin, I'll be happy to talk to Jason,
Okay.
and we'll report back to Donnie about that. But I guess the idea is to, if they're happy with the 12-foot, we're happy. We prefer a 12 to a 16, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, it's a single lane travel, even if it's 16, it's single lane
Right.
travel, no matter what we're
Okay.
doing here.
Okay, so our preference is as narrow as possible. Well, 12 feet. Okay, good.
Okay.
That
Any
was the
other
width
sort
of the original bridge, wasn't it? 12 feet?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
But I think it had to sit on top of those piers. I think the gap is about 9, as Don said, is about 9 feet.
No, well, John, we're talking width. We're talking traveled width.
Oh, I see.
over-
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well, I think that, are there any other, anything, Paul, anything that you haven't heard the whole thing. We mostly talked about sort of engineering. Donnie's going to be doing a determination of the amount of water upstream and how much has to get through the eye of the needle. He's going to be doing engineering calculations and so on to try to figure out how to handle get high water, what the need is, and so we can anticipate that when we're engineering. I think that was the most critical thing. And then you came in when we were talking about precast concrete and so on.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I have a question. Can we get the precast concrete in there? Can we get long ones through the trees and so on? I guess that's something we have to think about. How do we get a crane in there? But and Heather's and others have expressed concern about not really messing up Wilbur's Woods during construction. So I think these are all pretty clear directions. Don, what have we muddied everything up for you, or are we making sense?
No, this is all good. Yeah, and to comment on your last question, John. So I don't see anything that leads me to think so the way the precast sections come, they'll come on a truck crane. It won't be a separate crane. Okay. It'll be like a truck where you see they deliver septic tanks. There's a crane right on the back of the truck.
Yep.
All right, so it's not going to be a huge vehicle. The culvert will be done in sections. We won't be putting one bottomless, 12-foot wide by 16-foot long bottomless culvert. We're going to have to put footings down first in the stream bed on either side, and then the culvert will be placed in sections. That depending on the width, where we talked about the travel way width, As the travelway width increases, the width of the sections decreases because of weight.
Mhm.
So, we might have, each section might be 2 feet wide, might be 4 feet wide, or might be a foot wide, but they'll all be cast with a, like a shiplap joint. So we start with the first section, put it at one end, put it on the footing, get it in place in the keyway and the footing, and then you put the next section on, put the next section, and when you get to the end, you've now have a full bottomless culvert style bridge.
Donnie, is this like what you did at the end of Long Highway? Same idea?
That's correct. I think we're going to be taking the aesthetics to another like exponential level. However, we won't be
Good.
seeing exposed
Good.
concrete and whatnot.
Right, but you can get a basic idea of what the interior, the meat of the bridge and culvert would look like from that, and then just figure it with stonework on the outside of that.
That's correct. I mean, we could, if you looking at the bridges that are there now, if you want to see the stonework, you have to get down in the channel and look underneath, because that's really the only, at one time you would see the stonework of the abutments, right? But they've kind of been eroded away and tumbled in. But we could stamp the concrete on the inside of the culvert too, if you want to have it look like it's actual field stone all the way on the inside as well, not just on the end. I don't see why that can't be done as well. Not quite as visible, but the difference between the one on Long Highway, that profile is only 2 feet. We're going up 4 feet because that's what's there now. So we need that hydraulic opening. We didn't have the ability on Long Highway, so we had to stay with the low profile. My only point is the higher the bridge, the more you're going to be able to see underneath. And now, do you want to see just regular concrete underneath there? Do we do the form wrap for the first 2 or 3 feet? So if you happen to be looking on an angle, you don't see concrete unless you get down in the stream and really look under there. I mean, those are things we can tweak depending on taste.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think-
I'd be for the shelf on the outboard
Yeah.
sides, and then maybe stamping in underneath where you can't really see it anyway.
Right.
And that would be an
Sounds like a
argument to not raise the bridge much higher, because then you'd see more underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to raise the roads or the bridges. I don't think that's a viable
Mhm.
solution.
Yep. Good.
That brings up the point of making sure that the sides of the bridge are safe for the cars that go over it, and how high does that have to be? What's
Right,
there
so-
now wouldn't pass muster, I would guess.
Well,
Yeah, the
so
road
what's
split.
now on the south bridge is probably a 10-inch high timber that acts as a curb, right? Guardrail curb
Mhm.
style.
Yeah.
So there isn't a regulation that I'm aware of. I can check in DOT. The only thing is what happens is when you start to try to say, well, what does DOT recommend for a bridge this size over a channel this deep? You're not comparing apples with apples, though. This isn't a town road. This is the most use. Most prevalent use, I think, will be maintenance vehicles and a passenger vehicle here or there. So this committee is going to have to come to some kind of trade-off. Of course, liabilities involved, right? So we have to do something, but to what degree? And maybe if you want to keep with the aesthetics of the old wooden bridge, maybe we build an old wooden handrail on the bridge, because you don't need a guardrail, I don't think, with the intention of stopping a vehicle from going off the bridge. I think you're more concerned with having some kind of and you've got it on the bottom. You've got the wooden curb, so to speak. That's going to stop the vehicle from going off the bridge, because we're not going to have vehicles doing 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. But a nice handrail or something would make it a lot safer for pedestrians.
Nice to peer over the top of a bridge railing and look down into the water.
Right.
Johnny, we haven't talked about the side of the road. Maybe we're not qualified to talk about it, but I think that's going to be the more complicated part.
So, yeah, and I think, John, you're focusing on it as the side of the road. From an engineering standpoint, I'm focusing on it as the eroded stream bank, which supports the road. So, yeah,
That's a scary
we've got
thought.
to, talking the same thing. That's the trick, right? Is we've got to restore and stabilize that bank so that then we can restore and stabilize the road. There's different things we can do there for stabilization. I'm meeting with a contractor on Wednesday to look at a couple of projects in town, and this is one of them. And we're going to get I'm going to get some good feedback from him. They do quite a bit of this work, so typical things that you see done. They'll drive a steel anchor into the bank with kind of like a harpoon on the bottom, so when you pull back against it, it grabs inside the bank, and now you can fasten something to the bank to hold the soil, and then of course that anchor fastening system is hidden with whatever veneer you put on the outside. I mean, there are different things. I'm going to learn more this week, and I'm happy to entertain. If somebody comes up with something or hears of something, let's look into it and make comparisons and see what we think is going to be best.
That sounds terrific. That sounds really good. So I think we've talked about everything, except maybe our next item on the agenda. Are we missing anything while Donnie's on? Donnie, you're invited to stay longer for this meeting because we're going to be talking about you.
No, that's all right. I'll sign off. That's a pretty boring subject, so I'll just.
I have one more question before Donnie goes.
Yeah.
That's okay. I have one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the question has to do with timing and access. And I know that you worked with Rob on the town landing. And one of the things is, as we spend a lot of time talking about water, we may have a pretty narrow sort of construction window.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of work to do before we get to that point, because we need to do all the engineering. We need to prepare the plans and the permit. And all of that obviously goes into, we've got to have consensus by this committee for the final submission, what it looks like. Then DEM needs time to review it.
Mm-hmm.
We won't be able to really talk about construction until we at least get the permit filed and start to think about when we would expect approval from DEM.
Okay.
Right now, we're into March. If all goes well, there's a possibility we could get this in the fall. Hopefully September, October is dry again. If not, this might have to be put off till 2022 summer, fall. I mean, we definitely obviously want to do this in a low flow construction at a low flow time.
Yep. And
Part of the thing. Just sorry, I left out an important factor, is the casting yard. So we obviously have to finalize the design of the bridge. As soon as we do that, then we send that to the casting yard. They're going to do their structural design of the bridge. Then they've got to build the forms if they don't have forms that fit what we're asking them to do. Pour it, go through their process, and deliver it. So that was a process that took a while on the Ryan project. That took longer than I thought it should have. However, we started that right when COVID was just starting to kick in. I actually met with those folks up in Uxbridge, and it was just at the beginning. We were like, are we supposed to wear masks? Should we even be? And then that was in February. And so they, during the COVID, they were having trouble getting supplies for certain things. So my next call is going to be to the casting yard, though, and describe to them the size and extent of what we're trying to do, and get some feedback from them. Okay, when we get the go-ahead, it's going to take this long to design. Then you guys approve the design. It's going to take this long to cast and deliver. So I can report back with that info.
We have two other small details before that, Donnie. One is we have to put it at the construction out to bid as well. And two, we have to find some money. So
Yeah, and it looks like you'll have two construction bids, one for the forms and one for the rest of the work.
we might, or
One for the what, Rob?
One for the forms. So they would build the forms and install them, but then the road work is maybe another RFP or a different RFP.
Really? Why wouldn't,
I
why would,
don't know, you could do one, but
I think I prefer, I don't know about anybody else. I prefer to have one contractor
would
be
be.
responsible for the
Right.
whole thing. If the two of them don't match, by if one of them 6 inches off, the town is responsible. So I think we're gonna probably want to have one bid, I would guess.
so if it's one bid, then the contractor would have to contract with the forms
Exactly.
people.
Exactly. But at least they're
so
responsible.
I have a concern about that, that aspect, and that is basically the casting yard that I've worked with, who's very good to work with and is on board with doing it this way. They're more than happy to design it for us however we want it and go through as many iterations as possible. But the idea is they're also building it.
Right.
So we could get a cost estimate from them ahead of time, but I know I wouldn't be dealing with these people if they know that this is their design is then going out to public bid and somebody else might be casting it. And the other, but I'm not saying it has to be one way or the other. I'm just saying these are my thoughts. The other thing is they are willing to design this for us. Another casting yard may just say, well, that's fine, just send us the structural engineering drawings. And now, so you go to a structural engineer and the first thing they're going to say is, okay, but first we got to do the soil compaction testing so that we know what to design. So we can certainly go through those iterations. I think at the end of the day, we're going to find the most cost-effective way is going to be to choose a casting yard, have them design it, and build it.
So then maybe to get around having to put the casting out for bid, maybe the way of doing it is to put a contracting bid out for the whole project that says, use this casting yard.
I have a feeling, hey, Tony, what's your thought about that?
You're on mute, Tony.
Oh, yes, thank you. I think we're going a little too far right now. I think we need to look at the design, and I think other things will take care of themselves. However, going forward, this project, I don't think you're going to be able to get this done until 2022. Late summer, fall of 2022, because as you know, you have quite a few things pending. Financing is one of them, the design, the bidding, permitting, all of this to be done. Let's take a few steps at a time, and we're going to get there.
Yeah, I think that's right. So we're being open-minded about options. That sounds good.
John, I just had a question. So in thinking of the financing, at what point in the process will we have a rough number to work with so that we know what our fundraising goal is?
Donnie, what do you think?
So once we've got a design on paper, and we know we can get an estimate from the casting yard on what the cost would be, and we can get estimates from other casting yards too, as long as they're willing to design it. But at that point, once we've got the plans not even approved but just designed, I think we'll then be able to get preliminary estimates, so that at least we can have a sense as to how much funding is going to be needed to meet the public bid prices that we'll expect.
Okay.
That makes sense. Okay, good. Well, this sort of segues into what we were going to talk about public relations plan to inform residents and so on, what we're doing. What's the general committee's feeling about timing, and do we keep this secret, or do we let this out quietly, or do we have try to get something in the paper? What's our thought?
Well, more public relations is always better than not having it. So I'd say, since we have awarded an RFP, that we could either sit down with the newspaper now and try to go through what we're thinking. I don't know if they would have any interest, but they probably would. And have a preliminary article about, here's the future of Wilbour Woods, here's what the group is trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think we need to get the news out there if we're going to do fundraising. Can't
Yeah.
do fundraising if nobody knows anything about it.
Right.
So, so maybe, I don't know, maybe it's.
Chime in. It's
Any other
Carol.
thought?
I'll turn my video on. I caution you on putting anything in the paper that says you're doing X, Y, or Z, because you haven't gotten to X, Y, or Z yet.
Right.
When you have a good picture of what you're planning on doing, then yes, albeit, put it out in the paper. But if you put out something too early, you're gonna get every Tom, Dick, and Harry trying to tell you what to do or what not to do, and it's gonna hinder your process a little bit. So I would think you'd want to nail down at least this portion of it, of what you're really thinking you want to do, then go after the article and the seeking the funds and that sort of, because if you start it too soon, it's going to hurt you, I think.
So there's a plan, and we can talk about, we can have a engineering sketches and things like that.
Well, that makes sense.
Something solid.
You're just much better off giving people a visual, because if you don't, they're going to think they know what you're going to do, and it could be entirely different than what you want to do.
And the first question they're going to ask is, oh, yeah, that's great. How much is it going to cost? And we're going to say, well, we don't know yet. We haven't got there yet. So
Yeah.
That seems like it's smart. You okay delaying a little bit, Rob?
Oh, yeah, I think that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense too. I think that sounds very good.
Because, we'll have a report from Don in a couple of months, I would think.
Yep.
And if we can't, we'll need another year to get everything else done before construction starts. And that's enough time to get enough public relations going. And
That sounds good. All right.
definitely cannot raise money without people knowing how much it costs.
Exactly. I think, as everybody's going to ask the same question. I think, Paul, at some time, one or two of us should go to the town council to have them be aware, but I think that should be part of our timeline for, I don't know if it's PR or just, letting things know.
well, if you want to put a brief synopsis about what we've accomplished so far, what our goals are, and then put it on the agenda, get it on a council agenda, I'll gladly bring it forward.
Okay. I don't know if it has to be the next 2 weeks, but maybe we get a little further into it. I think we don't want the council thinking we're going ahead without their idea. Of course, you and Tony are there all the time, so you can explain it. But I think we just want to start being open and let us have a rollout of information so everybody knows what's happening.
No, we haven't gone off the tracks here at all. We're going along like we should. We're asking all the right questions. We're dotting all the right I's and crossing the right T's, and we're moving forward.
Good.
But as long as we don't get overly eager and jump a gun on something, we should be fine.
Well, that would be me, overly eager, but I think we're looking at 2022, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody have any thoughts about next meeting? I don't think, are we going to be ready to, I don't think Donnie's, we're going to be probably ready immediately. But
Too soon.
Would it make sense to wait until he submits something to you and then schedule a meeting?
Yep. Do we want to talk about deer fencing and stuff before that? Or do you think that we should wait? I don't know, to see what Donnie has as a priority first.
I'd wait for Don.
Yeah, Carol, I was in the woods today and I was seeing the skunk cabbage come up and I started to panic and I was thinking, when is the best time you think to get the exclosure built? Like, are we trying to capture spring growth or is the timing critical?
Well, I mean, I think it depends how long you plan on keeping it up, because whenever you erect it, you'll have the whatever happens after that time and the growing season following. I don't think there's a huge rush. I mean, it's a sort of thing where you could get it set up this summer and just know that you won't catch sort of some of those spring things until next season, which is probably fine. Or you could aim for erecting it in the fall so you capture winter damage and then see what happens in the spring. Like it's cyclical, so I don't think there's any particular
Okay.
target.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so at some point we'll definitely have deer exclosure as a topic. I don't know, should we just meet in a month or?
Yeah, I think, well, why don't I talk to, I think Carol's right. Let's see how Donnie's doing.
Okay,
And he'll inform us when he's ready to meet with us again. And unless there's something else comes up, just get in touch with me. We can always have a meeting. It's been convenient in a COVID year to be able to get everybody. I think that's going to be harder, but fortunately the vaccines are coming out and so on. But I think it's good. So I guess that's it for, I'm all excited by Donnie joining us. I think it's going to be terrific.
Heather has her hand up.
Heather?
I just wondered, is there a pattern as to when we like to meet? It might be nice to sort of be able to pencil in. I thought we were meeting tomorrow. I think Paul said he did too. So how I got confused, I don't know.
I think let's go back to Tuesdays, if that makes sense with people.
So like the second Tuesday of the month, sort of, or do you have a? No, Sheila's saying no.
Not until we hear from Don.
No, but
How about-
just as
This
a
is-
tentative. All right. I was just
Sorry.
thinking,
If you want to meet Tuesday, the 30th, I can have information together by then. I mean, I'm all for scheduling the meeting so that we don't have to leave and then try to schedule a meeting after that. And I've got a deadline to work towards. So I'm comfortable with, if you want to do Monday the 29th, same time, Tuesday the 30th, same time, that certainly would work for me, and I can get the committee information ahead of time.
Let me just see if I can do that. I think that works for me. Supposed to have my second COVID shot about that time, but I think that's the 31st. Let's shoot for Tuesday the 30th then. Does 4 p.m. still work?
Yes.
And Carol,
Yes.
Carol Wardell, that's okay with you?
4 p.m. is better because then I have a budget meeting after that. So
Okay, 4 p.m.
All right, so I get the right day. What day are we talking about now? The 30th?
Tuesday.
The 30th.
yes,
Okay.
how about Brett? Is he okay with that?
yes, he's got his
Okay.
thumbs up.
Okay. And Carol?
Carol did, yes, she said yes.
Great.
So I guess that's it. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Heather? Second?
Are we all in
Second.
favor?
Any
All in
objections?
favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?